How's it going?
Doing okay. Honor students are weird. So, as soon as they schedule courses, it becomes viewable. I get like slammed with emails and appointments. And the first day of registration is always nuts. And then like the next day, it's not cricket, but it's so much calmer. It's so weird. Other advising offices will have a full month of panic students as they realize the schedule is open. But our students, man, they see want to know exactly what they're going to do. They're meeting with advisors. They've got it all planned out. They're going to type in the CRNs at 7 o'clock in the morning to make sure they get exactly what they want.
Makes your job easier.
Yeah, well, it just kind of front loads it all. It is like real nice that next day after registration. I now go in after Friday in the evening or sometime over the weekend. I go in and I check every engineering student and fine arts student, all 300 and something of them. I go in to the pin system and I pull them up and look at their pins. And if they have a pin and it's not a 4, I change it. I have permission to do that because they've already met with an advisor. That's what it shows. So once I figured out doing that, I catch 20 maybe out of the 300, but that's 20 students who are not calling our office at 7 o'clock in the morning crying and having a freak out. They did what they were supposed to do. Somebody just didn't realize they were an honor student and did it according to their class standing.
Yeah.
So first year, I didn't know to do that. Second year, I did that. Totally different first day of registration. So much calmer.
Nice.
It's like, Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm actually getting ready to get married next week, so I'm a little crazy right now.
Okay, the important question is, are you going to be able to take any time off after that, or do you have to wait for the summer?
No, I have to wait for the summer. We had originally scheduled it for the fall in December, like right at the end of the semester, and obviously that didn't happen, so we had to postpone. So yeah, so I'm trying to do a wedding mid-semester, which is always fun.
Congratulations anyway. Besides the wedding planning part, I'm sure the wedding will be great fun. The
Yes.
of your labor.
Yeah.
How's the cake?
Yeah. Oh, I'm very excited about the cake. Yes.
That was the thing I looked forward to the most was the cake.
Yes, I am. We have 2 cakes. I have a groom's cake I'm surprising Jordan with, and so I'm excited about it. It'll be great.
What are the flavors?
We are doing a vanilla buttercream and an almond buttercream, and then a chocolate with a chocolate mousse.
I
so
think
covers the spectrum of all, palettes.
Mm-hmm. One of the layers of our cake was pina colada.
Ooh.
Surprise, and it was like really good. You would never guess it was pina colada. But it had a really nice flavor to it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was an option for cake flavor. So
Cakes. I like them a lot. We still go back and just bring them to get cakes from them just because. Anniversary. Last year we forgot our anniversary. Actually, last year we completely forgot our anniversary, and we've not been married long. This is our 4th anniversary. So the second year we forgot it until we were reminded in the evening. The next year we forgot it because that was COVID. So we forgot it for a month. This year we remembered and got a cake.
Nice. Yeah, we're saving the top so that we can eat it a year later. That's the goal. I don't know if we're going to last that long. If I'm going to last that long, let's be honest.
You can go buy another cake.
That's true. It just won't be from the same bakery. We're getting married in Arkansas, so everything's.
Where in Arkansas?
Fayetteville.
Yep, in Fayetteville.
Yeah, that's where I lived. That's where I lived for 6 years, and so I just love it there. It's beautiful.
It is. Yeah. Okay, it's time to mute myself.
Welcome, everyone. As it turns out, I actually am coming from a dissertation defense by Stephanie Fowler. Those of you who knew Stephanie, Doug, will remember she graduated as Stephanie Rogers, I think, at the time. She graduated actually through the Communication Sciences Disorders major and honors track. She worked for many years in the honors office, so she set up a lot of the undergraduate research grant structure and so forth in our office, and she was just doing her dissertation defense on Teams, so I got to see about 20 minutes of it. That was fun.
Yeah. What university is she at?
She went to UT Dallas.
Okay, yeah.
And she did, I think, so she did a clinical and a PhD.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And her topic is related to music, and she was looking at different groups, those with cochlear implants and those with hearing aids, and then normal hearing. So, yeah. Connected to Elaine, to your area. So, kind of a success story out of the departmental honors track world.
Yeah, I can sort of grumble about it. I'm very happy for her, but UT Dallas, we're at the Collier Center, they've got a lot of money. And so they can attract, the top students that are accepted to multiple programs. They can say, here, we'll give you a free ride.
Yeah, I think a lot of things in Dallas have a lot of money. That's my perception. So
it doesn't make them better. It just means they've got a lot more money. They got a lot more money to play with.
Well, thanks to all of you. And we have a couple of guests with us today. We're actually going to jump right into a first presentation. So our agenda will include 3 presentations from different departments, different models of what constitutes what we sometimes call honors in the major, more often called departmental honors. And then I'm actually going to backtrack and give a brief overview. But our first presentation will be from the Department of Aerospace Engineering, because Dr. Miyose will have to leave the meeting early. So, so again, if you feel like you're kind of thrown into it, that's kind of how we do it in honors in a lot of cases anyway. And just bear with us, and we'll pick up some of the threads after the presentation. So Roy, I'll turn it over to you.
So let me make sure that I got share screen. Great, I think I do. Well, I don't see. Do you see your PowerPoint slide okay?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, all right, great. So I'll start off and say it's an honor to be here in the Honors College presentation of the Departmental Honors. The first thing I want to do is mention that it is the program that we had before. We are changing, I think, as of next catalog year. And the old program, I just kind of want to mention because it is more of a traditional version that you may see in a lot of departments on this campus, although of course there's going to be variations. And in this traditional type of program we used to have, we did have a scholarship requirement of 3.5 or better GPA in the technical electives in our program. And then after that, we required a successful completion of one of the following. It could be research oriented, where a student completes a research experience and then presents a seminar presentation that's open to the public, oftentimes advertised to students and faculty across campus. The second possibility was to complete a teaching experience, which involves the development and delivery of an educational seminar. So perhaps a student is required to do the actual lecture delivery of a particular topic. That was an option. And the third option was to enhance a course that the student may be taking and require significant work beyond a normal course, and then of course culminating in a seminar presentation. So student can pick one of these three options and make sure that they have completed the scholarship element of it. The emphasis of this traditional version that we used to have until this last year was more academic in nature, but the drawback there was very few of our students pursued this this honors, departmental honors distinction. We had maybe one student every 5th year or so. And so as I mentioned, effective next catalog year, I think it was, we're going to have more of a portfolio-based system with many experiential elements. So before we talk about the new program that we've got, I want to provide some background about the College of Engineering's Engineering Plus program. And we started this, I think, maybe about a dozen years or so, or 10 years, based on recommendation by the National Academy of Engineering about educational experiences which would be meaningful and would give a leg up, so to speak, to new graduates. And the College of Engineering implemented this Engineering Plus program. And as a description, the students have to complete any 3 of the following categories, primarily an out-of-class experience-based learning type situation. And the first 3, and they don't have to pick a particular set of 3, but any 3, co-op, education or internship, some sort of entrepreneurship or innovation experience. And a lot of the students who get this category get involved in the Coke Innovation Challenge, I think. If they study abroad or originally come from a non-English speaking country, it's possible for our international students to automatically get this. Multidisciplinary education, so that would mean earning a minor in some other area, undergraduate research, leadership, and service learning. So we already have this requirement within the College of Engineering for all of our engineering students. And what we as a department decided we would do is to take elements of the traditional system and add some enhancements on top of that, which are experience-based. And we even included one component that really isn't a part of this Engineering Plus experience, but we hope that quality graduates from our program will be a part of. So this new version is, again, portfolio-based system. Students earn points by acquiring experiences or doing of accomplishments, and the students are responsible for self-reporting it, providing documentation. The students need to earn a total of 150 points. There are 5 categories, so on average they need to earn say 30 points in each of the categories, but you can earn more points in some categories and less in others. 20-point minimum and 40-point maximum in any category. And the 5 categories, first off, include scholarship. So for example, students can earn points for doing well in required aerospace engineering classes or technical electives. They get 3 points if they earn an A in the course, 2 points for an A-, and so on. They get points for joining the National Aerospace Engineering Honor Society called Sigma Gamma Tau. That'll earn them 2 points. Or if they also join Tau Beta Pi, which is an all engineering honor society, they get an additional. So, and this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the different kinds of or ways in which you can achieve points. And then the next 2 categories is discovery, and this kind of includes both the work experience like internship, the research, and even semester abroad. So these are ways in which a student can expand their horizon outside of the classroom. Service is another category, and they can take a service learning course or get involved in volunteer activities. And we tend to emphasize more the engineering aspects of these things. The volunteer activity, a certain number of hours is required to get a point. Other two categories is leadership, for example, serving as an officer of a student organization. And then the last category, which is different from the things that are listed for the College of Engineering's Engineering Plus
We'll give Roy another couple seconds to see if he returns to us. So I think what we'll do is maybe move on to the next one. And then, as I said, Roy is going to have to leave the meeting early anyway. Let's see if he now returns, if he gives us an internet refresh.
Yeah.
Hi, Roy.
sorry about that. I think my internet cut out just as I finished. So
It did. You were just getting right to your right to the apex.
It sort of reminds me when I did high school debate is we got cut off if we exceeded our time. So I guess there was an auto cutoff there.
So if you still have a few minutes, I'd like to actually go ahead and take any questions if anyone has any quick questions for you.
Yes, most certainly. Yeah, Doug.
Thanks, Roy. I really liked the portfolio approach. That's not something that we do, but it is a way of sort of tracking who's doing what and who's not doing enough. My question is, who manages that? Like, who's in charge? Who in your department is in charge of making sure that the points are added up? And it seems it's an important step, but it's a very intensive step, especially the more honor students you have.
Yep.
It's a lot of curating.
Yeah, so the first thing is this has just been released as a new version. So we already have in mind that there are going to be changes to the program. We will probably add new elements, into categories, ways of earning points. We may decide to eliminate some. And the idea we have in mind right now is that the students are responsible for self-reporting. So we'll probably have some sort of a way to track the points with maybe like an Excel file or whatever, and they'll have to enter in the points themselves, provide documentations that they have, participated in it. And then we do have one faculty member who's volunteered to head up the honors program. So I think as we get students involved, then we'll get an idea of whether it's going to be a lot of work for the advisor that is involved or not. In the old program, we only had one student every blue moon, so to speak. So we really don't know how well this will be taken by the students. But we wanted to design a program where it's more of a, they're already doing some of these things for Engineering Plus, and the additional reporting requirement is like attending professional society meetings, and we haven't completely nailed down how we're going to do that, but perhaps they take a selfie at the event and include that, so we have some ideas, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be changes. Colleen?
I had a follow-up to what Doug asked, and I actually sent a private question to Roy. I don't know whether he got a chance to see it or not. And this is from my recent experience that the advisor from College of Engineering asked me to verify the status of a student who claimed that he had worked as in the leadership position organization. And he, to the best of my recollection, and we actually inquired about, faculty advisors who preceded me and who followed me. And none of us remembered that he was in a leadership position or that he was in an elected position, because the treasurer and the president are elected positions, and maybe vice president, as per their charter, they are elected positions. But he may have held some minor position, I'm sure, because these kind of organizations, sometimes you have to give incentives to students to volunteer by giving them some title and designation. But it must have been a very minor role, and I don't know whether that would have qualified for this particular, point credit or not. So,
Yeah.
as Doug said, I think I like this idea, and this approach is great, and I think it can be emulated by other colleges as well. But we just need to be careful about how it is implemented, and we would like to learn from what your experience is about how to implement it. I mean, self-reported numbers can be a little bit dicey, and there should be some verification process, I'm sure, but we'll learn from what you guys have as an experience.
And that leadership element is already part of the college's Engineering Plus. And what the students have to do is provide a write-up of what it is that they did or how they fulfilled that particular requirement.
Right.
And then they that write-up tends to be more of the majority of the documentation. And currently our staff advisor and also alternatively our department chair approves or rejects that that application of up to like a one-page write-up. And students I think can include other documentation on top, like photographs or something, if it involves like volunteer work activity. So it's more of a decision made by the staff advisor on whether to accept or not accept a particular item. And I'm sure that the individual, the student involved, when it's denied, can bring it up to the department chair. That oftentimes it's more like, well, there's not enough evidence, so the student needs to write additional or provide more documentation.
So Roy, my question is both for the Engineering Plus program and for the honors plan. Culture of the department, how receptive are the faculty to these kind of outside of the department activities, so internships as opposed to research within the department?
Yeah, so to be honest, the majority of our graduates aren't going to graduate school for research, but will be working in industry. So that internship or work experience while they're a student is actually a very important component of the engineering students' development. So we are quite receptive to it, as a department. Now, I can't speak for individual faculty because, the tenure track faculty need to produce research and bring research funding. So they would love to have students who participate in that activity. And we do have a large number of our undergraduate students involved in that. So I don't know, I'm kind of a roundabout way. I can't speak for the other departments, but I think the Engineering Plus program, there are many people who like it, but there are some who may think that, well, it departs from the traditional academic, teaching side of things, teaching in the classroom type of thing. So
yeah, but hopefully they'll see the benefit of the outside activities too, even for their own research.
Yeah.
Students can contribute differently in that way.
Right.
In that case, yeah. Okay, thank you.
welcome. Anybody else?
Thank you, Roy.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll stay on for about 5 more minutes, but I'll have to head to class.
Okay. So we've had several programs recently developed. As Roy said, this was a kind of evolution of a program in aerospace engineering. We've had several programs recently developed. One of those in the Department of Psychology from an existing but really pretty dormant, I think, psychology track. So, and we have others I know on the call who have other departmental tracks. So Sam Gregas is here to tell us just a little bit about that process, more of development and where they are at this point. And Sam, unmute yourself.
All right, sorry about that. You would think I would know by now on a Zoom call that I need to unmute myself, but apparently I still don't. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you where we ended up in terms of our requirements for departmental honors. But the history of this, from my understanding, is that several years ago, Dean Enberg approached the department about a willingness to have a departmental honors track. We are a very popular major, and the faculty are really agreeable to that. We already had a mechanism in place for students to complete independent research, so it seemed like a fairly easy transition from one to the other. In terms of what the process was like, I met with Jess Rayburn in spring of 2019, and she was extraordinarily useful and helpful in helping guide this very rudimentary version of what we had in the course catalog, which I actually think the wording was something like in process or to be determined or something like that for years until we actually formally got it through the KIM system. But a few things that I learned during that meeting that I found useful that I wanted to share with you all. So aside from things like credit hours and GPA, the department is really leading the charge for creating the requirements that work for them. And that was nice because it gave us a lot of flexibility to decide what would work for our department. I also learned that the classes that, had the honors components do not necessarily need to be identified as H in the course catalog, so they don't have to be honors designated. And so that was useful because, we didn't need to create those courses or change the course catalog. And we were able to not necessarily have to specify which classes students would take, but simply provide a number of courses that they would need to complete honors related assignments in. So that was useful because it provided both ourselves flexibility as well as students flexibility. We don't always know who's going to teach what classes in our departments. And it also gives students flexibility so that if they want to more specialize, say, in community psychology, they can take courses and complete honors assignments in those courses that are more relevant for their future or their career, as opposed to telling them, which courses they need to complete those in. We also wanted to create a competitive application process. And this was intentional to cap the number of students that we could take in every year. As many of you probably also experience, we are an under-resourced department. And so we do have limited faculty available to be mentors and to be able to take on a student in which they are mentoring an academic thesis. And so it was very intentional in which we created this application process. So it's not everybody who meets criteria gets in, but it's, identifying the criteria for those students in terms of who can apply and what they need to do. So we do allow ourselves to cap that number. We did not say what that cap would be, as we suspected it would vary from year to year. But we did that with intentionality. We also looked at models from communication sciences and disorders. So, just trying to see what the range of different opportunities were for, and different options were for creating departmental honors. In our department, we have an undergraduate curriculum committee. So we have faculty who are specifically assigned to, different committees, one of which was kind of in charge of this task of developing the honors departmental program. And so we discussed what elements we felt like should be required for both admission and what we wanted our students who would participate in the program to complete. So in terms of our admission requirements, those are on this side. We wanted to make sure that there was a sufficient number of basic background courses completed, that would really prepare students to complete a senior honors thesis. So general psychology, stats, research methods, those are just basic requirements that we as faculty want our students to have and come in with, so that it's not like fresh and we don't have to teach them all of those things from the very get-go. And then we had a number of core courses that we wanted them to have enough sufficient experience with as well. In terms of our honors requirements for what we wanted our students who were completing in the program to do is the research lab experience. That was number one. And this is something that's needed for graduate school when students are applying. And we wanted to ensure that there was a year's worth of research experience for a couple of reasons. One, it gives the student a sufficient amount of time to complete a research project from start to finish, but it also gives the faculty member, it kind of makes it more worthy for them to spend their time really investing in this student if they're willing to contribute as a part of that faculty member's research lab. And so it kind of serves both purposes there. We did want to make sure that those credit hours could be negotiated between the faculty advisor and the student. So some faculty, when we talked about this as a group, were like, I really would want them to complete 3 hours in the course. And others were like, yeah, I'd be okay with 1 hour so long as they're contributing somewhat in the lab. So I would say that varies in terms of the commitment that's required per faculty, but that's an agreement between the student and the faculty. We do have a scholarship requirement. And then we did have a number that we put on a completion of honors assignments for core or elective courses. We do tend to have generally courses that we regularly offer with honors distinctions, but students do have the opportunity to work with an instructor of a non-designated honors course to develop an honors assignment. We also have them participate in the Psych International Honor Society and Psychology organization. That's a great organization because it can provide funding. It also provides resources, networking. So it can provide travel assistance to conferences. And so we wanted our students to be involved in that. And we have a chapter here at in the department. In terms of funding, so we also wanted our students to be able to apply for funding to support their research project. And not only would that support their research project, but it also increases their competitiveness for graduate school applications. We made sure that the funding was just something that they had to apply for, not necessarily something that they are required to achieve in order to get that. And we also made sure that the funding options that we listed are not necessarily really demanding. They're pretty reasonable in terms of, it's not like an NSF proposal where you're having to write pages upon pages. But there are funding opportunities out there, and for psychology students, it's really important to start thinking about that, especially as they're going into graduate school. The Mentored Thesis is kind of our capstone in psychology. And it really represents the culmination, if you will, of what students have learned over the course of their, taking classes and learning to apply what they've learned and, collect data. And it's really that representation of being able to do a lit search, collect empirical data, and then present it. And so that dissemination component of presenting at a conference is also included as a requirement. And again, this isn't meant to be really high-level competition. We have an annual research roundup that the psychology department hosts, and that's completely fine. That's, a minimal expectation, but of course students can present to other regional or national conferences, and that can count too toward that. And so those are things that also are designed to help those students increase their competitiveness for graduate school. In this process, after the undergraduate curriculum committee met, we took the proposal to the full faculty meeting and got feedback. And it was useful to, just understand where faculty were at, making sure that we gained their buy-in, ensuring that students were putting in a sufficient amount of time in the lab for faculty to feel like their time was well spent was really important. And that's feedback that we heard from our faculty. So the credit hours being negotiable, that was something that we heard from our faculty. And then we also took the proposal to the Honors Faculty Council for feedback. And that was really useful in terms of clarifying wording, making small tweaks. It wasn't like an overhaul by any means, really just suggestions for improvement. So we incorporated the feedback, and our department chair submitted that to the KIM system in spring of 2020, I believe. And so this is making it for the first time into the catalog in 2021. So it is brand new. It is one of those more academic, traditional formats of the Departmental Honors. So it's kind of nice to see the differences from Roy's program to the psychology department. And right now we're really just beginning to advertise. So we're creating flyers. We are putting information into campus visitor packets. We're going to be giving information to LAS advising so that they can spread the word. So I don't have any data yet on, how much students are going to be attracted to this or want to do this. So that's to be forthcoming, I guess. But yeah, I'd be happy to take any questions that you all have.
I have a question, Samantha. It's very great. It's great kind of portfolio that you have put up for your program. And I think it's it can be again similar to Roy's program. This can be emulated by other colleges as well. I had a question about that mentoring somebody for a master's thesis. We have a capstone program, and again, I don't want to just talk about business school, but the difference between offering a capstone course versus a master's thesis is an option at many schools, that you do one or the other. The question is about the resources and how do you incentivize the faculty to do the thesis work, because does it count as their course load, the regular course load, or are they paid extra if they take as a mentor for master?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, it doesn't count toward anything. I guess you could count it towards service, if you will. But I would say that, the way that I see it for myself is that if I have a student who's working in my lab and helping promote, and run some of my research projects, then it becomes useful to me. And so in that regard, that kind of goes back to the faculty really wanting a student to at least commit to being in their research lab for a year. So if we feel like we're getting an investment from them, then we're more likely to invest in the student. But that's basically where it falls. Not all faculty are probably, I don't want to speak for everybody else. I would say most faculty would be willing to provide that mentoring, but certainly it's not a requirement, which is also why we wanted to add in that flexibility of capping the number, because we don't know every year if faculty even have the space or can accommodate a senior honors thesis.
Yeah, I think that the thesis can be very time consuming from a faculty's point of view. And I think, it's great if they can they would volunteer for this time, if they can find time to volunteer for it. So
yeah.
I think to see how it is being done in other schools and colleges, so that if we propose something similar in business, we would have some background or context to talk about that. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you for responding to my question.
Yeah.
Doug, go ahead.
Sam, yeah, I just had a quick question. You mentioned that you didn't have to create cross-listed honors sections. So what do the syllabi for these courses look like? Do you have a separate section in the syllabus that explicitly says that if you're taking this as an honors student, you need to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, I don't know if this has come up yet, but to me, it would make sense to have some type of contract that is a written contract. So if I were advising a faculty member who's teaching one of these classes, I would probably advise them to have something written in the syllabus if you're taking this for honors credit, just to have something written. That would make sense to me, but we have yet to cross that bridge just yet.
So Jesse can maybe speak a little more to this. I'm assuming you're managing these that do not have a designated honors section on the books as an honors agreement. So that because you're saying complete honors assignments in 4 core or elective psychology courses, right? So like 324 has an honors section, 323 sometimes has an honors section. Many of the others do not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, that would be my understanding, but Jess, if you have anything beyond that.
Yeah, you would just want to make sure that the easiest thing for you would be to have the faculty and the student fill out the honors option agreement forms, because then after that, I take care of the processing of turning it into an honors course with the registrar's office. Essentially, once the forms are submitted, they're reviewed just for appropriate, kind of a light level for appropriateness, assuming the faculty person knows what they're talking about. We trust faculty people. And then at the end of the semester, I just send an email and say, did they do what they were supposed to do? And if the answer is yes, then the course gets converted with the registrar's office into honors and coded that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Any other questions? So we have a long-standing program in communication sciences and disorders, and Doug Parham, I think, is prepared to talk a little bit about that. And this gives a different, it's a similar model in some ways to the psychology model, but you're at a different phase of development.
Right. Can everybody see my screen? Can everybody see the screen?
Good.
Okay.
Yep. Good.
And Dean Ingbert, while I'm thinking about, when I was listening to Roy and Sam, I was thinking that if we ever have like a university-wide forum like we used to have before COVID, where you would have multiple presentations going on in the second floor of the Radigan Student Center, and it was geared towards either strategic planning or there's an MRC one. We should do this as an hour-long session. Or if we can't do that, let's find the regional conference in honors and do it there. Because this is really, I mean, this is sort of the nuts and bolts. If you've never done this before, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of other departments who can't be here on a Tuesday afternoon, or other universities that have maybe want to get started on this, I think it's really helpful information.
Yeah, great.
But anyway, so I'll kind of just walk you through the nuts and bolts of our program, because Roy and Sam have already kind of shown you like different models, and ours is a little bit different, but not so much. Again, I can only take credit for improving the honors track in the past 5 or 6 years. The real person who kind of, built it from scratch when it was just sort of a, in its infancy, was Trish Self. And many of you know Trish Self, my colleague in CSD. So I wouldn't say that this is her baby, but she was certainly the one that kind of, she got it going, and then several of us sort of, raised it. So I'm taking you directly to the undergraduate catalog, because what you see in the undergraduate catalog is exactly what the program is. And I'll talk just really briefly about the KIM system. For those of you that have access to KIM, you can actually see ours, and I'll talk you through that, kind of what it looks like and how to get it started. So again, you start at our main page. When you click on the majors, and the good thing about the catalog is everything's kind of in the same place. So here is the Bachelor of Arts in CSD. Click on that. And then you'll notice that as you go through this, there's the overview section. And then at admissions, this simply tells students, regardless of honors, what do you have to do to get in the program? And then under requirements, these are the program requirements. So we have a pre-CSD sequence. So there's 4 courses that every student takes to enter into the major. My goal in the next 18 months is to get rid of this because it's just a complicated extra step and it adds work for everybody. And so my goal is to fold these existing courses into the major and get rid of the pre-CSD sequence altogether. It just doesn't make sense in today's world. So, but for now, that's what students have. Once they've completed those courses, then they are entered into the major. We have a 43 course major. So some of these are, again, some of these are included in that pre-sequence. When you add it all up, it's a total of 43 courses. And then you'll notice if you just scroll down a little bit, this is the section that describes our honors program. And again, I mentioned the chem system. So our undergraduate CSD major is number 192 in the chem system. The honors program is 193, and they just sort of glue them together when it appears in the catalog. So this is the honors program. And again, this is similar to what Sam described in terms of there's coursework requirements and then there's extra stuff that you do to be able to graduate with the honors track. So here talks about sort of, what do you need to do to get started? Scholarship and research are encouraged. We encourage people to pursue the honors program. Students who are not CSD majors and are involved in the Cohen Honors College should contact the CSD department for permission to enroll in these courses as appropriate. We do have an application process, and I'll show you that in a second. I want to get rid of that too. It's bulky. It's just extra paperwork, and that's a story for another day. Okay, so to be eligible for our program, you have to be a CSD major. Again, that means that you've completed 4 prereqs, and then you have been officially switched in terms of your code within Banner. We ask for a 1-page double-spaced letter describing why you want to be in the honors track. And again, that's part of the application that I'll show you in a second. And what are your goals? Like, why do you want to do this? The original thinking was that we'd have students flocking to the honors track because they thought it would make them more attractive to graduate school. And that's not really true. It is true that many programs, including ours, give you an extra point if you completed an honors track. But, if you're strong in other areas, it's not absolutely a necessity to be competitive. There's all sorts of ways of being competitive in different ways. And then the other thing, and again, this was mentioned by both Roy and Sam, is that you need a CSD faculty member to mentor your final project. We are fortunate that we have a lot of young junior faculty, and they're enthusiastic about working with undergraduate students. So we haven't quite reached that point where we have so many honors track students that we can't figure out what we're supposed to do with them. So that's a good thing and a bad thing. Would I like to have many more honors students and that be a problem? Maybe. Right now, it's not really something that we need to focus on. Then in terms of like the academic requirements, so those are the admissions requirements, and then you have to have a 3.0 GPA, and then these are five courses within the overall 43-hour major sequence. And these are, you'll notice these are all 500. These are sort of courses that you take when you're a senior. And we did, in fact, cross-list those. So there's a CSD 504, which is cross-listed with CSD 504H. And it doesn't necessitate an extra syllabus. For our syllabi for each of these 5 courses, the title of the course is CSD 504/504H, and then there's a couple of paragraphs in the syllabus that are explicit about what you as an honors student are expected to do. So you pick 4 of these 5 courses, and that gets you the academic coursework requirement for the major track. And a couple of other things, You have to be involved with other students. So our honors coordinator, who is also Trish Self, she gathers the students together regularly, not so much with COVID, but that'll change. We have a student association, just like has been mentioned before. Ours is called WUSHLA. And so you're a participating member of WUSHLA. And then this, when you see the word portfolio in number 5, this is not as formal as what Ray described. This is more sort of you're collecting materials in case somebody asks for them. I don't know if we're going to go to something more formal. You know, we've talked about portfolio or e-portfolios here in the Honors College, and then we talked a little bit about that in the College of Health Professions. We do not have a formal portfolio organization system. This is just something that we, you know, have the students put together in case there's a presentation, in case they need to talk to a class, and then they sort of have materials that they can use. And then finally, to associate the research project with an actual credit hour, we created this CSD 490H, which is a directed study. It's the same thing as like a independent study, special project. You can call it what you want, but that's the 1 hour that links your research project with an actual credit hour. And then, so that's the full description. There's nothing else to it. Let me show you then one other thing. So on our website, okay, so if you go to our CSD undergraduate page, you also have this same description typed out. So this is under our Bachelor of Arts, like, you know, what's the program? What does it look like? And here's the Department Honors track. This wording is almost identical except for this initial paragraph to what you saw in the Undergraduate Catalog. So same thing, all this is the same, this is all the same. And then also a link to the Honors College for, to get the students more connected, not just with our honors track, which again is sort of just housed in our department, but also to get more involved in the Honors College, which is kind of the overall goal. And then you'll notice the last thing I'll show you is this honors track application. Again, we're still in the dark ages because that's a printable, fill it out with a pen. I can't stand it. And so our goal will be, sorry, am I still screen sharing?
No.
Okay. Okay, here it is. So here's an application form. It says you've been admitted to the CSD major, and if you're interested in being part of the Honors College, here's how you do it. Again, this will be a fully fillable form very soon. We do have deadlines, but we don't really stick to them. You know, if a student comes in and May 1st and says, I'm really interested in the honors program and I want to start in fall, I say, sure, just submit your stuff. And then, you know, all this stuff. We do ask them to write, as I mentioned, a really quick 1-page description of why you want to be in the Honors College and what you want to get out of it. And again, here's a couple of places where you can list honors, leadership, and then things that you want to do in the future that you don't really have the opportunity to do now. And so that's it. Sorry, let me see if there's anything else at the bottom. So that's what ours looks like. And again, you have to find a faculty member who's willing to do your research. And these can be combined. So for example, if you're working with a McNair Scholar student and you're already the research mentor and they're like juniors, and they say, you know, I'm really interested in the honors college or the honors track, you can kind of combine those. And so, you know, I don't think it's double dipping to do both an honors track research project and make it your McNair Scholars program. So there's all sorts of flexibility there. I'm not one that just sort of is really rigid about the rules, as long as we just make sure that everything's accounted for. And that's just kind of how we do it. So that's really all I have, unless there's questions.
Could I add a couple of things?
Mhm.
I've had the opportunity to be that mentor, even though I'm not in CSD, because the project was sort of an interdisciplinary project. So that sometimes can expand your opportunity of people. And I think I've done one for somebody in psych before too. I don't remember. But I did have a question, Doug. This 1 hour that they take of the directed study, that course, does that then like add 1 hour to their degree program? Not that that's a big deal. I just was curious.
It does, yes. So it would go from 43 to 44.
Okay.
And we do tell them that on the offset that this will be an extra thing that you have to pay for, and most of them are okay with that.
Yeah.
The other thing is we don't have any. If I had my way, we would let that substitute for an hour somewhere else, and so we stick at 43. We don't have any 1 hour courses floating around that are already within the major sequence. So there's nothing, you can't really sub it out for something else.
Any other questions for Doug?
I'm just really impressed. It's really interesting how we have 3 programs, and even though the overall sort of shell looks similar, the inside is completely different. And I don't think that other departments who may be interested in doing an honors track realize that there's a flexibility there, that you really can build your own thing as long as there's certain things in place, you can kind of build it how you want it.
So we do also have Dr. Chelsea, and I don't think that Chelsea had prepared any formal presentation, but she represents a department as well who just went through the process of creating a track. So Chelsea, I just wanted to give you the opportunity, if you wanted to say anything about that, to do that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we just got done putting the Departmental Honors track together for the Workforce Leadership and Applied Learning program. And so that will officially start in next catalog year. So we're excited for that information. Definitely leaned on all the different models that were presented today to help provide some guidance to that. And as we were working together as a faculty team, and I think even today I've been taking lots of notes that I'm sure will be good to build in before we even get it launched off the ground. So excited to see how that goes and see where the students are. And yeah, we'll have that launch in our first application cycle soon.
Just to return briefly, so it's been some time since we have updated the language around departmental honors. And Chelsea and I have talked about this a little bit in the technical sense. I don't mean so much in the technical sense, but just the way that we think about how honors in the major or departmental honors fits into overall honors. And Doug also alluded to this. So when the college concept was created, departmental honors became a kind of satellite. So the question of what impact can it have to create an honors college was taken up by that faculty group, several of whom are here, as an aspirational question about what could be done in an interdisciplinary space. And departmental honors didn't fit neatly initially into that. Students have always been able to pursue it, but what I really want to keep now working on is being able to articulate better to students and more generally the existence of these departmental honors tracks, because for many students that work intensively within their department is going to really propel them forward in professional ways, in a way that some of the interdisciplinary work doesn't necessarily do. And also to be able to talk about how this currently integrates with the honors curriculum. So this actually, these courses and the track in the honors in the major actually can be used toward the university honors minor with some additional courses. And again, we don't have a really neat way of showing how honors in the major or how departmental honors works within honors college itself. I think it still feels to many people like something that's happening kind of over there as a satellite piece. So I say that not so much apology, just as awareness. And Chelsea, I do see we need to add workforce leadership and learning here to our list. So I will stop with that and open it up now for any general questions or comments that that those of you who are presenting or who are listening have. Thanks, Atul.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. I'm going to be presenting next on May 13th, so I wanted to mention that.
Elaine mentioned about how she's worked, across colleges, and that's really what it should be. And I'm thinking that if we had a situation where a student was doing a CSD honors project, but it was somehow interdisciplinary, I would figure out a way to cut their major hours as sort of a reward for being willing to do it.
Interesting.
Now, I can't do that now, but there's a way to think through it. Like, how do you get from, how do you, I don't know, I'm just thinking aloud, but, Elaine,
Well, I would
she
make
gets,
this,
but you get
I
it
would
because you
make this
understand that it's
comment.
about more than one, it's like more than one profession coming together for the student.
But let me make this comment. Sometimes those people are also doing minors, so it gives them it gives strength to their minor. Or maybe they think they might do a minor and they kind of delve into this and then they pick up those extra hours. But the other thing it does is, in a way, it really strengthens any applications they do in the future because they are getting letters of recommendation from someplace else. They get the opportunity to present out, like most of the people that I've worked with, we've actually been able to do a presentation at a music conference, and sometimes that can even be at the international level, which that's, it would be harder for them to do that within their profession. Since it's something more unusual, they'll sometimes be chosen to do things in our field because it is interdisciplinary. It works both ways. It's a benefit to both sides because of the interdisciplinary work. And just like, I think I can say this, Doug, this is for a master's thesis, but I've watched students do undergraduate honors things that then they carry into their master's thesis work, which then strengthens them in their master's degree programs. And if they stay here, great. If they don't, it still strengthens them, but it really gives them a leg up.
One of the other ways in which honors tracks are sometimes used in other colleges or honors programs is to create accelerated bachelor's degrees so that there's a deliberate pipeline into the graduate program and there's a 5-year plan for those students who are in honors. And we don't have any program that I can think of that does that intentionally. Unintentionally, that happens, as Elaine is saying, particularly an extension of some of the research. But it's an interesting, I think, intentional model.
I think we did have one student in the past couple of years who was in the honors track, but also fit the senior rule. And so she had completed all coursework by December. Actually, we had two that did that. And we admitted them to our graduate program for the following fall. The following fall when they applied in like December of the previous year, and they took some graduate courses as undergraduate students as part of the senior rule process. And they were honors students.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Well, thank you to all of you. I think this is going to feed nicely into a few things that are happening, including we have another open invitation conversation on May 13th. I think that's 3:30 on May 13th. That will feature those faculty who have been working as honors faculty fellows on curriculum development or larger program kinds of development projects. And we have a group that's working on outcomes and program review. And this question of the departmental honors track, and as Doug pointed out, this similar frame with the flexible insides, I think that that description, as well as this conversation, informs or will inform some of that discussion as well. So I appreciate all of these presentations. I know we've seen some of this material before, but it's actually helpful, I think, to see it all together. And we will have a recording of this meeting that we will be able to share out. And I hope that I will see our guests again on May 13th, and that Zoom link information, if you don't have it, you can always ask Carla Mann, but it will also be out in WSU today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.